Hi, this is Brian McHenry, McHenry Software. I'm going to do a walkthrough of Dxf surfacing and image draping on that Dxf surface. First thing we want to do is start with My New Project. Create a new project. Let's just call this Dxf surfacing. And we pick vehicles. Let's go ahead and maybe make our first vehicle an Altima. Put in Nissan Altima, maybe a four-door sedan, 2007. And you should put in your occupant, cargo weight, and check your specs here. But we'll go ahead and just leave that as it is. Then the second one, we'll make a Fusion, a Ford Fusion. Put in Ford Fusion. Go with a four-door sedan, 2012. And again, check your weights, etc. Now we go ahead and pick those two vehicles from our models. There's an Altima. And a Fusion. I'll go ahead and finish. Now the first thing to do is to bring in a image or a map. Let's go to a map. In this particular case, we happen to have the actual location of the scene, 38.57489 north and 122.5508 west. Now you could of course put the name of the intersection, or you could have put the address, and those also would come up. You hit search, it brings up this picture of a Silverado trail. We go ahead and hide that. Let's zoom in just slightly. And then we say save to image file. We'll save it as Dxf surfacing. We save it. Then we say OK. It gives us a standard size. Now the first thing you want to do is to scale that set image. We happen to know that the width of the roadway is around 23 feet. Now let's go to the overhead. Here we have our scene. So now we go to the Dxf, the drawing overlay. And up here, there's an insert Dxf file. We go ahead and grab one. We had one already, a Dxf sample file. Now you notice it has a lot of numbers, etc. You can turn those off in your actual Dxf file, or you can turn them off here in your CAD program, or you can do it here. And we go ahead and let's just turn off everything except for the one scene called scene, which has all our datas. Now next thing we want to do is here there is a scale, position X, Y, and rotation. We want to rotate it until it's approximately parallel. And probably want to move it over a little. There we have a relatively good match. You can zoom in to check, and well, we're kind of off here in some parts, but we seem to be good here. But obviously, you take a little more time on your individual cases. It's just a demonstration. Now we say OK and close the overlay. Now the next step is to create the surface. So with the surface, you want to grab the points from your Dxf file. Just like in our other demos where we actually put in the elevation points, we grab the points by clicking on that elevation button. Now, for Dxf files, if you say select entities, it has a select Dxf line and points from the drawn entities to use for elevation. So we select all. We're done selecting. One of the things you'll notice is we have the points on the edges and center line. Then there's some points here and here that are not really elevation points. Those are mainly like when you write a scale or something. Sometimes that's at a different elevation. So first thing we want to do before we surface this is go ahead and get rid of those. If you end up surfacing them, you'll find there's like a mountain where they are, or it could be a valley depending on how much different they are than the elevation of the actual roadway. But if we go ahead and say delete point, we can go through and we're going to delete each of these. Now you notice we just have the edges, center line of the roadway. One thing I would suggest is generally when you take survey points, make sure you also get shoulder points, because otherwise what would happen is there would be a step discontinuity. The default elevation for areas that are not included in the surfacing that you've measured would be up here. You can set a default elevation, but if you have a roadway like this, which is a downhill or uphill, there's no real default elevation. So the best thing that we suggest is to actually add some points. And what I do is you go up to draw point, and you just put a couple points here, 1, 2, 3 on each side. Then what I next suggest is you sample with the edit point, what is the elevation of the edge of the road. You just click on these points and it'll give you elevation, like here's 7 and 8. Here's 8. So let's go ahead and set this one at 8. Likewise on the other side of the road, it's around 10. And again, you could make this, if you know the terrain is sloped, you could make it slightly different. But this is just to make sure that there's a defined slope for the shoulder area so that if the car happens to run wide, you're not seeing a step discontinuity. Now we go and make all triangles. See up here there's a button, make all triangles, and then we say apply. See how we have the surface here? It's a slight downhill, and the area of the accident, which is here. So now we go ahead and would move our positions of our vehicles. I'd go back to the overhead. Let's move them back maybe 100 feet. You would have also in your scene diagram the actual location of the impact, so then you could place your vehicles accordingly. And now we're going to select Recalculate 3D Simulation. The first step that's going to happen is it's going to write the output graphics file. Now this may take a little while. I'm going to skip forward on this. On your computer it may take a little longer, but rather than have you sit here and wait for it, it depends on the size, how big a surface you have, but we're basically writing all the elevation points for the use with the 3D simulation. Now it runs the simulation. And we can hit the play button down here. If we go strike, we can zoom in. Then what fun would 3D be without looking at the side view? And that's how you do 3D surfacing and draping of images in the msmac3D program. Thank you for watching.